A worldwide Super Smash Bros. Splatfest? Yes! In this corner, the brave fighters who battle the forces of evil. Heroes! Gosh, Pearl, spoiling the second DLC character already. And in this corner, the fiend who stop at nothing to get their way. Villains. Yo, are you seriously about to represent villains with a straight face? Villains are bad guys. No one likes bad guys. Not even bad guys like bad guys. Villains aren't bad guys, they're just misunderstood. Villains know what they want, and they go for it. I can respect that. Yeah, but what they usually want is to destroy the world. Psh, that's just what they want you to think. Villains want to fight the establishment and topple the status quo. But they're branded as villains just because they want to change the world. Yeah, they want to change the world from not destroyed to destroyed. Which, by the way, is so overdone. Why have villains gotta be so boring? Like, can you please find some more interesting life goals? You want to talk about boring? The hero of any story is always the least interesting character. Heroes wouldn't even exist if there were no villains to shake things up. Villains wouldn't exist if their parents hugged them when they were Villains wouldn't exist if their parents hugged them when they were kids. Poor Murray. What about you at home? Head over to the Splatfest terminal and pick a side. And once you vote, make sure to equip your Splatfest tea and level it up! Hello everybody, here to you, and welcome back to Let's Play Splatoon 2 Splatfest. In the previous episode, it was November 2018 with Salsa vs. Guacamole, and in today's episode, it is December 2018 as we're taking care of Heroes vs. Villains. Now this is a very noteworthy Splatfest indeed because, for the first time in a while, I record this footage myself! Yay! Yeah, I think it was around this time when I was getting settled into my new apartment at the time, and I was finally able to start playing Splatfest more consistently and things like that. I don't remember the exact timeline of everything, but I think from this point onward I was able to record Splatfest as myself, for at least for a little while. I don't know exactly, I didn't actually check with the next episode or anything like that, but that's not important right now, because the important thing right now is that this is a very noteworthy Splatfest. This was Heroes vs. Villains, which was the promotional Splatfest for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which I believe came out, I think, before the Splatfest happened. It was around the same time as this, because they had all the Smash Bros. Characters on the Splatfest banner and things like that, so it was pretty cool. There's a couple of noteworthy things about that. First of all, Heroes vs. Villains. This would have been a really interesting concept if they also revisited it a little bit later after all the DLC was finished, because can you imagine Sephiroth on a Splatfest banner? That would have been awesome. Like, I think at this point, the only DLC characters we knew for sure that were happening were Piranha Plant and Joker, because I think Joker was announced like a week or two before the Splatfest happened. So those are the only ones that we knew about for sure. I think there were rumors going around at the time that Hero was also going to be in the game, because something about the Smash Brothers data miners were able to uncover the code name for Hero, so that's kind of interesting. I don't remember exactly why, but on my notes for this video, I told myself to use footage of this particular match in general, so hopefully it'll be good towards the end or something like that. That is one thing. That is one thing that I really wish they did with this was that there were Splatfest rematches towards the end of Splatoon 2's lifespan, and they didn't do a rematch for Heroes versus Villains. It would have been really interesting if they did it with the DLC characters, but they didn't, unfortunately. But it's kind of interesting because I remember when I was recording this footage, I was thinking that by the time the video goes out, we might already know all the DLC characters. And back then, we didn't know about Fighter Pass 2, so, like, back in those days, like, I thought there would only be, like, 5 DLC characters, but there ended up being 11, which is pretty cool. Like, I liked most of the DLC characters. The only one that I didn't really care that much for at all was Kazuya, because I kind of felt like with Terry, Kazuya was a bit redundant. Whoa. Look at all that blue! Oh, that's a beautiful sight. Oh, please tell me it's 64%. That'll make this perfect. Not quite 64%, but still, that was awesome. Going back to the DLC characters for Smash, like, Kazuya was really the only one that I didn't really like that much, because I kind of felt like having a character focusing on command inputs and things like that made him a bit repetitive when Terry was already in the game, and just Kazuya's command inputs just weren't nearly as fun as Terry's. My problem with that in general is that all the command inputs really work that well in Smash, because the whole point of Smash is that it's supposed to be a simplistic fighting game, but then when you have command inputs on top of all that, it becomes a bit more layered and harder to get into if you've never played the game before. So that's a big reason why I'm not really that big of a fan of Kazuya. And I also just think that there were a lot better fighting game characters they could have added instead, like Talon from Soul Calibur or anybody from Dead or Alive or something like that. So that's just my personal opinion. I don't like Kazuya at all. He's my least favorite DLC character in the game. He's not my least favorite newcomer though. That has to go to Ken, because I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for saying this, but Ken is just a less fun Ryu. But I can't really complain that much because I did get Pyro and Mithra, who was like the one DLC character I was really hoping would get in the game, and then it actually happened, and it was super cool because I love Pyro and Mithra because Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is awesome. Unfortunately, we didn't get Lara Croft, but maybe next time. We did get Sora, who was like probably the best character they could have chosen for the final DLC character, so I'm really happy that they have Sora in the game now, so that's pretty fun. But anyway, enough about Super Smash Bros. Because we're going to be talking about Splatfest stuff. So, Monta Maria, we've seen the stage plenty of times before in the past, and we're showing it again because it is awesome. And I already promised that we'd be demonstrating every Splatfest stage in the game and stuff like that, so that's pretty fun. But yeah. The actual Splatfest itself, it took place from December 15th, 2018 through December 16th, 2018. So that's pretty interesting indeed. And a couple of fun trivia facts as well. This was the first Splatfest and currently the only one in the series where the next one after this was announced first. So we didn't know what the December Splatfest was going to be before Family vs. Friends was announced, which was the Splatfest for January 2019. And I remember back then, I thought it was kind of an interesting idea to skip a December Splatfest altogether, because my mindset back then was that they were probably doing that because there'd be a lot of new players starting to get into the game, because they got the game for the holidays or something like that, but that ended up not being the case. They ended up having a December Splatfest anyway, so I'm not sure why they announced the January one first, especially with the dialogue we'll see during Splatfest results. Some other fun facts about this is something that's pretty interesting that's related to Animal Crossing. So, in Animal Crossing New Leaf, the Welcome Amiibo update, they had some Splatoon items, one of which was a Splatfest banner, and you can have the colors of it change to look like the Heroes versus Villains Splatfest colors. Now, they represented a bunch of them, most of the colors coming from the first game, and I believe the colors for Heroes versus Villains were reused from the first game's Transformers Splatfest. They had Autobots versus Decepticons, so that's kind of cool. I don't know anything about Transformers, so that's all I really know about that. But yeah, even if it is reused, it's still kind of interesting that those cars are in Animal Crossing and stuff like that. So. going back to the Splatfest thing, as we're just reading up in my notes that the Splatoon wiki brought up an interesting theory on why Family vs. Friends was announced first. So the Splatowing data was data mined before the Splatfest was announced. So a lot of data miners were already familiar with the fact that there were going to be special Inkopolis decorations for the Halloween Splatfest, which data miners, why do you have to ruin everything? This isn't even my final form! I cannot be defeated! Okay, enough of the corny villain lines, Marina. You know, Pearl, we're not so different, you and I. This is but phase 1 of my secret evil plan, which I will now explain in detail. First, I will kidnap all the world's volcanoes, then I'll steal the nuclear... Whoa, shut up, Marina! This just in! We've received a transmission from on high. Yeah, apparently the next Splatfest will be right after the New Year's. And they'll announce the theme for that Splatfest on December 21st. Whoa, can't wait! If you participated in the Splatfest, your prizes are waiting in the square. Not sure why they said that when they had already announced the Family vs. Friends before the Splatfest even happened. But yeah, the most common theory about why that was the case was to make it so data miners didn't ruin the surprise like they did with Splatowing. So yeah, data miners, learn from Xenoblade, because like the Xenoblade fanbase can data mine anything in those games and keep it a surprise for everybody else. Be more like that. Stop spoiling the surprises, especially Smash data miners. Just stop it. Stop it. Now, before we wrap up this video, there's one more thing that I'd like to talk about with this particular Splatfest, and that's the Splatfest art. So, there aren't any international Splatfest differences, this was a worldwide Splatfest, but the artwork is still very noteworthy because this is just awesome. Seeing Splatoon characters playing Super Smash Brothers. I love how they all have different individual controllers, like Marina's playing with the GameCube controller and things like that. It's so cool. And I really like just the fact that Marina has like a gaming headphones on and a posture corrector, which you don't really see in a whole lot of character art and things like that. It's a really interesting detail. So Marina is a video game nerd. Yay! She's the best waifu ever. But probably my favorite detail about this entire artwork, alongside the fact that Maria is supporting Gally when she's playing at such great detail, but my favorite detail is Pearl. Because how the special weapons work in this game's lore is the fact that whenever the Inklings are in battle and they get into a heightened emotional state, that's when their ink changes to become special weapons. We can see Pearl has a similar effect going on where her special weapon looks like it's about to go off, because as she's playing Super Smash Bros. And she's super into the match that's going on right now. It is such a good detail, and I've been waiting a long time to talk about this because it's so cool! I love the artwork for these things. But that's going to be it for this episode of Splatoon 2 Splatfest. So in the next episode, it's going to be January 2019. We're getting into the final year of Splatfest for this game. It's really hard to believe we're almost done with this. But next episode will be Frosty Fest, as we'll be taking care of Family vs. Friends. So thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Splatoon 2 Splatfest, and until next time, lead the gear to you. Oh yeah.